Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode. But this one is an extra special and exciting one because today I'm bringing you guys the chance to enter into a very sweet giveaway to win what I can only describe as a biblical new PC build, all thanks to today's sponsors, Gigabyte. And when I say biblical PC build, I really mean it. Like, if you won this PC, you would actually have a better PC build than I do. So yeah, it's a real treat potentially for one of you if you win it. So let's talk about why that is. This Talon gaming PC build features a Z490 Aorus Pro AX motherboard, which supports the Z490 chipset and Intel 10th gen CPUs. So we're talking proper top-of-the-range stuff. With Intel Turbo Boost, this 10th gen CPU will automatically adjust its clock speed to match the task at hand. That's really important because in a lot of games, they rely on raw CPU performance versus core count, and this is really important for esports titles or just any games that you're trying to maintain frame rates of up to 240 Hz, which can be very demanding on the CPU, and that's especially true when it comes to F1 2020 or most racing titles. Like, take it from my experience, I know the F1 game is very demanding on PC, so a CPU like this is really going to help you out to just iron out everything and have the smoothest experience possible. And on top of that, the Z490 chipset is built for the Intel 10th Gen K processors, meaning that you're going to get that extra bit of performance out of already what is essentially a mad fast CPU with adequate cooling support. Like I said earlier, one of you guys could potentially just win this insane Talon gaming system. All you have to do is just watch the rest of this My Team episode as you normally would do, and at some point in the video there'll be a secret code that will spring up on screen as an overlay, and you can use that code to enter the giveaway. The link to that giveaway will be down in the description, as well as a link to just the combination of hardware you've seen today. So yeah, you could potentially be winning an absolute biblical PC build. All you gotta do now is just watch the rest of the video. So with that, let's get into it. So ahead of the Singapore Grand Prix, then if you guys did miss the previous episode, then be sure to go check that one out because things got very, very frosty indeed. The gloves are indeed off, as I said at the end of that episode, after myself and Verstappen, of course, if you did watch it, came to wars and made some major contact for the first time already this season. So far, it's been pretty respectful till now, but I guess, you know, it is crunch time. It's the last third of the season, basically, and now that me and Verstappen are very much going to be in right now, and it's apparently going to be right to the end in a championship fight, I guess, you know, he had enough of being Mr. Nice Guy and drove into me and turned into me whilst we were trying to overtake him. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's going to make the rest of the season very intriguing because not only are we two there, but you've got also two other players. You've got Carlos Sainz, my old teammate, in the Red Bull now, not too far off, really not that far off us in the championship, and then Leclerc, after winning 2 races in the last 3, he has put himself back into contention. He did have a little bit of a wobble halfway through the season, but ever since Spa, you know, where we saw him clicking last season, it's happened again, basically. It's a bit of a weird thing in our career mode save. It seems like Leclerc's AI just improves and just ups his game from Spa onwards, and to be fair to him, his team also have been improving, and they continue to improve, because Ferrari bring even more upgrades to their car. They're the only team showing this kind of trajectory throughout the entire season. No other team has been improving this much race on race, but Ferrari are throwing the kitchen sink at it, it would seem, to try and get Leclerc a second world championship in a row, maybe, and also their first constructors in a long time, because of course last season, even though Leclerc won the drivers championship, we did win the constructors, our very first constructors. So Ferrari's still aiming to win the team championship where all the money is, of course. So Ferrari are going to be stronger this weekend. It is obviously, historically, it's been a pretty good track for Ferrari in real life, and with those upgrades, I got a little bit worried. For the first time, I was worried that this might slip away from us, because for now, even though Ferrari and Red Bull and McLaren at times have looked good throughout the season, we've still been consistently up there with Verstappen. But seeing Ferrari's trajectory on the R&D chart, like actually physically on the performance index, got me a little bit worried. So far, I think it's been down to the individual AIs of Sainz and Leclerc, you know, just doing the absolute god work. Leclerc, we know he's definitely been 100 rated probably ever since that season 2 ending, and he's been doing amazing. But now if the car is getting that good, like even Giovinazzi could be right up there if that car is really getting that good. I think we need to make at least one more big upgrade here. So we're going to go for an ultimate drag reduction update, because I feel like our car in recent races maybe could have been a little bit punchier in a straight line. You know, it's felt great in the corners, but maybe we need to compromise a little bit more in terms of the upgrades there and try and reduce the drag. So an ultimate drag reduction update is going going to help us out in that department, whether it be in dirty air, trying to slipstream cars, or to just naturally, when we're by our own in clean air and qualifying and whatnot, just reducing the drag there. So I mentioned before wanting to save R&D points, and I still want to do that, of course, for the regulation change that I assume should be coming, you would think, since we didn't have one from Season 2 to 3. It's going to be very odd not to have one in Season 3 to 4. But I need to upgrade the car at least a little bit, just to make sure we can see out this championship and not get left for dust like we did in Season 2. I want a fighting chance. So we've upgraded that, but now that will really be, I think, our last big upgrade. Maybe I do one more minor upgrade somewhere along the line, but that was a lot of resource points to be spending, and those are points obviously we can't now spend on adapting parts for next year. So that will honestly be probably the last upgrade we make, and I really mean it this time. So let's hope that's going to be enough to hold us through, even Verstappen hold him through in the championship fight and keep our car afloat versus Ferrari and Red Bull. But we go into qualifying then, very important qualifying session. Thankfully, unlike last season, no rain is around us here, so it's going to be smooth sailing, hopefully, knock on wood, and it is going to be in Q1 at least. We make it through after doing 2 consecutive laps. A little bit slower than obviously the guys around us, but that's kind of usual for me in Q1. Still kind of getting used to the circuit and pushing the limits and whatnot, and obviously the track will rubber in. So we go into Q2 then and hoping to make it through, and you can see on those tyres we are on the yellow wall medium compound, and that's because pretty much everyone and their mother has gone onto these tyres. Both Red Bulls, both Ferraris, Verstappen, even I think the McLarens are trying it, Ocon and Norris. So everyone is trying to go on the mediums because it will open up a one-stop strategy from mediums to hards, which is so favourable around here because just like Monaco or Hungary, it's so hard in the traffic here if you're making a 2-stop where we get a bit of traffic here with Valtteri Bottas. He holds me up a little bit there. Valtteri very slow in the last sector, so that puts me off a little bit, but it's still been a pretty okay lap, but not the best. P3 though, I was really happy with that, but some people yet to set their times, of course, but I was very happy with that. I am confident we can get through into Q3. Others, though, not so much, because we fast forward through, pretty much most people, apart from I think my teammate, go out and switch to a set of soft tyres. So by the end of it, there's only going to be 3 people that were brave enough to stick it out, and that's going to be Carlos Sainz, myself, and Verstappen. Just meant to be, isn't it? Just meant to be. Me, my teammate, and my last teammate from Season 2 are the only ones that won a mediums. To my surprise and shock, both Ferraris went onto the soft tyre, and Leclerc had an absolute mare. He only qualified P8 there in that session, despite going onto soft. So, yeah, very odd, but it puts us in a very unique position, because now we're the team with the better strategy, medium to hard tyres. Last season, I think Leclerc did qualify on mediums, and he was one of the very few, so he just dominated the entire Grand Prix. So now, it's the opposite, which is very weird, because obviously that Ferrari car has only gotten better since Season 2, so it's a very odd dynamic, and this game and this career mode save bars just keeps on confusing me and throwing curveballs every single episode, pretty much. So, yeah, it's going to be, I guess, Sainz v me versus Verstappen, surely, because the rest of them will get caught up in traffic. But, obviously, that Ferrari car, it's improved again into this race, and Leclerc is looking mighty after that win in Italy, and it was a 1-2, of course, so who knows? Maybe the Ferraris can outdrive the second stop and still fight for the podium and the race win, maybe. We'll have to see, but we're now in through to Q3. Feeling good about our chances here. The car is going well, but I think, Ferrari are yet to really turn up, and like Italy, they might leave it to the end here, and Giovinazzi is on provisional pole as it stands. We go P2 only. Sainz then goes and tops the timesheet, so everyone is putting in fast laps, apart from Verstappen. Verstappen's actually put in his first lap is actually slower than mine, surprisingly, so we are actually the better out of the two, and by the time we come through to our second flyer, chucking it into turn 1, gaining minimal time though, as it's so fine in terms of sector 1. We kind of extracted the most we could have done in the first lap. I believe we're down to P5 because Leclerc is on provisional pole now, and it is actually a 1-2 for Ferrari, potentially, if Giovinazzi has improved. No, he hasn't. He's down to P4, that is. Ricciardo P3, so that must mean it's a front row of Sainz and Leclerc as it stands. We're still ahead of Verstappen, and we've not gained too much time. Purple first sector, green second, but it's only about a 10th improvement there, so that's how close it is in this qualifying session for us. And we go up into P4 though. That does bump us up onto the second row of the grid. But it is going to be Charles Leclerc in pole position in the Ferrari. Then second place, Carlos Sainz. And then it got Ricciardo, myself. Giovinazzi splits myself and Verstappen. Very poor qualifying from Verstappen. Surprised. Very surprised indeed. But of course, he, along with myself and Sainz, are on mediums tomorrow. So it won't actually matter, in my opinion. You could have qualified down in P9. And because you're starting on medium tires, it won't really matter too much. Because honestly, that's how powerful that strategy can be, I feel. McLaren's a little bit off the pace then. 7th and 8th then for Ocon and Norris. Fiat and Matsushita showing the mega improvements also from the Works Renault team, I might add, to both making it through into the top 10 shootout. Kudos to them for both beating the Mercedes cars. So that might be quite interesting for Season 4, you know, to have our engine manufacturer going up against us, you know, if they keep the improvements going and actually are able to keep that pace through the regulation change if it ever comes. But tomorrow, interesting times. I think we've got a very good chance to go for the race win, you know. It's been a long while since our last race win in this season. It was Zandvoort, wasn't it not, in round number 5. So it's been a while. I think we've got a good chance here because the only two we have to fight are really Sainz and Verstappen, I would say, on that one stop. Let's go to the grid and see how we do.
Against the spectacular backdrop of the Singapore skyline, Formula One returns once again to do battle in what tends to become something of an endurance race, with the notorious sauna-like temperatures in the cockpit making for an extremely physically challenging Grand Prix. We're here at the Marina Bay Street Circuit today, located in the heart of Singapore. The circuit consists of 23 corners, 13 to the left and 10 to the right. It's a track that's incredibly technical, so don't expect to see the drivers taking too much at full throttle. Also here, of course, is Anthony Davidson. They must be starting to feel the pressure at this point, and surely. There's a real shot at the title on the cards here, but one error at the wrong time, well, that could throw it all away.
Of course, there's never a good time to make mistakes, but it will feel 10 times worse if it happens at such a critical point of the season. Let's hope this contest is settled where it should be, on track, wheel to wheel.
With the race minutes away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, and talented Spaniard Carlos Sainz completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Ricciardo, the owner-driver, Antonio Giovinazzi, and Verstappen, Ocon, Norris, Fiat, and Nobuharu Matsushita, Hamilton, Albon, Valtteri Bottas, and Stroll, Russell, Gasly, Sergio Perez, and Jack Aitken, De Vries, Latifi, Magnussen, and Romain Grosjean sits at the back of the grid. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today?
Alright, so thankfully no grid penalties to talk about. So it's going to be a clean, straight fight, and we can really see the difference between the 1-stop and the 2-stop today. But there you go. As I said, medium to the hard tyre. Easy does it. The only thing we'll have to worry about really is maybe fuel, and then just keeping it clean, honestly, at the start, and being patient. You know, if we can maybe try and overtake Sainz, that would be ideal, because of course we'll be fighting him directly. But then other than that, I don't need to worry about it. We just need to make it through to that first round of pit stops and see everyone drop away as they go on that 2-stop. But here we go, under the floodlights, here to 5 red lights for the Singapore Grand Prix, and we're underway from the second row of the grid. It's a decent start for Leclerc, but Sainz comes back at him now for P2. Ricciardo around my outside. We're going to try and fight him if we can, but into turn 1, couldn't really do too much. Giovinazzi in the second Ferrari tries around the outside. We get the elbows out and squeeze him right out to at least maintain P4. Verstappen stays put in P6. Not surprised, though, that all of us on mediums aren't able to attack those of us who are on the soft tyres, and to that effect, Sainz has actually been overtaken by his teammate then. So Ricciardo up into P2. Sainz, you know, throughout the season has been the faster man, but at the moment, obviously, the soft tyre is the faster compound, so it'll be Leclerc that pulls away in first place, Ricciardo second, but it doesn't matter because, you know, come that first pit stop, then you've got the race leader, which will be Sainz as it stands, but we're going to try and change that if we can try and overtake him. You know what? Sainz looks a little bit vulnerable here as he has a little bit of a wobble through that right-hander, and on the exit we get a good launch on the outside, feather the throttle, and we've somehow made it through. It's going to be a wonderful overtake. We can pull this off there using overtake mode at the exit, and we're going to push through and just about keep the car within the confines of the circuit, and we are up into P3 of the Singapore Grand Prix. Great overtake on Carlos Sainz, and that will effectively, remember, be the race lead once Leclerc and Ricciardo pit onto, I would imagine, a set of medium tyres as the 2-stop is typically soft tire to 2 sets of mediums. But there we are, P3. Verstappen, meanwhile, update on him. I think he's still behind Giovinazzi. Yes, he is. That second Ferrari car doing a decent enough job on the faster compound to maintain that lead. But right now, we push away and try and do the best job we can on this stint. But Sainz looking a little bit slow, I must say. Really slow. Ever since we overtook him, you know, that's why I went for the attack, because he just looked a little bit, I don't know, pedestrian in the corner. So I don't know if he's lost some pace or he's saving fuel or whatnot. But we cycle through the grid just to show you this is the traffic. It's these cars right here on the medium tyres, the Alfa Romeo, Alfa Tauris, Racing Points, even the Williams cars. All these cars, that will be the traffic that the likes of Leclerc and Ricciardo, Giovinazzi feed into. So they've got a real big job. But as I said, maybe that's why Ferrari went to the soft tire. I was surprised about that in Q2, but maybe that's why, because maybe they think Leclerc, maybe not Giovinazzi, but maybe Leclerc definitely has the pace to outdrive that extra pit stop and come back through still to attack for the podium in the race lead. I guess we'll see, because here they come in now. Lap number 5, so very early on in the Grand Prix, of course, but that's how much of the tyre wear is on the soft compounded tyre. So Leclerc is in, Ricciardo's in, and there we are, swinging through the last corner. Lovely camera shot there, and we're into first place of the Singapore Grand Prix. Sainz up into second. Giovinazzi continues on. Obviously, his teammate taking the first call and pit stop, so he's still there holding up Verstappen a little bit. But you can see we're not really too far away from each other. We are far away from that man Ocon leading this secondary pack on soft tyres. But it's going to be literally myself versus Sainz versus Verstappen if they can keep up with me, because now we're hitting a little bit of tyre wear on ourselves. So Sainz has sped up a little bit more. But Leclerc is going to feed out, ooh, just behind the Haas car. So not total amount of clean air there. So he's got to overtake the Haas. But then you saw through those camera shots, there's like a load of Racing Points, Alfa Tauris and Alfa Romeos for Leclerc to overtake. So he's going to make his way through and going to really, you know, cut through them basically. So that's his task, but we know how difficult it can be for the AI to sometimes do that. Meanwhile, for us, lap number 9, going defensive there on Sainz as he does speed back up a little bit. So I assume he was maybe saving some fuel and ERS earlier when I overtook him, but he's trying to re-overtake us. But we're going as defensive as we can, trying to make the track as wide as possible to just maintain the lead of the Grand Prix right now. It's crucial, remember, this is the legit fight for first place there with Sainz and Verstappen, so we need to maintain that position. So, you know, we're not going to lose, you know, we might lose some time effectively to other people around us, but that is the fight today, so we need to try and maintain that track position. Meanwhile, you can just see the amount of traffic that those guys are now in. Leclerc, Ricciardo's even further back, as Leclerc had a decent few second gap to Ricciardo, so Ricciardo's got even more cars to pass this afternoon, or night time rather. We're now on lap number 10, about a third of the way through this Grand Prix, and Sainz is going to come in for his first and only pit stop of the afternoon. But it's very early, you know, well, not very early, but at least a little bit earlier than I thought, because I'm personally coming in on lap 12, I've indicated to my engineer. I think Verstappen is lap 11, because my engineer asked me if I wanted to extend my stint, and I did, because just to try and... Oh, wait, well, hang on, Sainz! Sainz is on the soft compound. What on earth have Red Bull done? Why have they put him on softs? That is the worst strategy call I've ever seen here in the F1 game for a while now. Well, actually, that's not true. There's been plenty of bad calls, but this is another one. The Red Bull team, what are they doing? Sainz now in the traffic, and you can see it wouldn't be an issue if he was on hard tyres, but he's come out behind Giovinazzi, I think that is, behind Lando Norris as well, and his teammate Ricciardo, and he's on the soft compound, so he has to do a second stop. It's impossible to do a one stop on softs. Meanwhile, whilst his teammate Ricciardo up the road tries to overtake the Alfa Romeo, but even Ricciardo can't get past that Alfa, so that's how tough the traffic is today. But why on earth is Sainz come onto soft tyres? That is pretty much guaranteed it's going to be now a straight fight between the teammates, myself and Verstappen, because he's had a mare there. The Red Bull team had a mare. So Verstappen comes in on lap 11. Like I said, I indicated I wanted to come through on lap 12 because I felt like, you know, the medium tyre, it actually is the best race tyre, I feel. The hard tyres, although they obviously give us that durability, they're very poor around Singapore. There's definitely not a moment I'll call them nice around this circuit. They're better around other circuits, obviously, like Sao Paulo we found out in Season 2, but definitely here, want to be on the least number of laps on that hard tyre, the white wall, so we're going to try and stretch it just a little bit on lap 12, but Verstappen now out from his pit stop. Then it was a bit of an awkward camera angle, but he's got... No, what? No, come on now. Verstappen is also on the soft compounded tyre. What is everyone thinking? What are the strategists all on today? It's a two-stop for Verstappen then. So pretty much now, we've been given a golden ticket. Surely, this is the best bet we're ever going to get in a long while of winning a Grand Prix again in Season 3, because Verstappen is also on the soft compound tyre. He's in a bit of a better position than Sainz because he's not in traffic too much, so he might have half a chance of, you know, like Leclerc pushing through and coming back through a little bit with the faster compound tyre, but why have they gone into softs? That's such a bemusing thing. You saw the default strategy for me, like that the computer suggested to me, was a one-stop onto hard. So why on earth the other computer AI have decided to do a two-stop is beyond me. But there we have it. But we are in, and we are not going to follow them. We're going to go onto the hard tyres and get that trap position. We're about 12 seconds ahead of Leclerc, so that means he'll be about 12, 13 seconds ahead of us once we make this pit stop. But of course, he's going to come in again around lap 20, I would imagine. So we're onto a set of white wall hard tyres. That'll see us through to the end. It's a bit of a slow pit stop, 2.7, but no bother. Going to come out, and Verstappen will overtake us, because obviously he's been on the soft compound now for a lap or two. That's fine by me, because he'll also be coming in. But we come out in plenty of clean air in P3, just ahead of Ricciardo and Giovinazzi, who's having a bit of a battle with Lando Norris, you can see in the top left there. But yeah, 13.6 seconds to Leclerc, 4.4 to Verstappen. Comfortably, I'll re-overtake them once they make the pit stop. So now it's just about trying to make the best of these hard tyres. That's why I'm weaving about, trying to get them up to temperature and grip up a little bit more than they are currently. But yeah, so in the lead then is Leclerc at the moment, of course, on mediums. Verstappen, he's on softs. Now, it's a very weird strategy, but let's give him a minute. Maybe he feels like, and his side of the garage felt like he could be fast enough to catch back up to Leclerc. I mean, let's see how the gap progresses between him and Leclerc. But there we are in third place, ahead of Ricciardo, Giovinazzi. But all these guys have another stop to do, whereas I'm ahead of them and not making any more stops. And Sainz, at the moment, he's stuck in a sandwich of McLarens. He's behind his original teammate in the game, Lando Norris, in the McLaren right now. So he's had an absolute mare. The person who's lost out the most is Sainz. Like, Verstappen at most has lost out maybe one position from second to third there, being behind Leclerc, but Sainz has lost about 5 positions, which is just awful for him with that two-stop. So I don't know why Red Bull have put him on that strategy. They're almost sabotaging his championship fight. But on lap 20 then, Leclerc and Verstappen are both in on the same lap then. Verstappen did close the gap up a little bit to Leclerc, but not that much. But we'll see how it goes in the last stint, because now it's game on. 11 laps to go in this Grand Prix, and I will be a lot slower than Leclerc and Verstappen. Even if they're on medium compounded tyres, they're going to be on much fresher mediums. I'm going to be on worn hard tyres. They will start to catch me. It's a question of if they catch me by the end of it, and then it's one thing to catch me in clean air, but then can they overtake me? I'm going to have to make this car very, very wide if they do. But there they are then, chasing after myself. Behind them is Giovinazzi then in P4. He's overtaken Ricciardo in this Grand Prix. Ricciardo, he finds himself in a sticky situation now behind an Alfa Romeo and Racing Point. And they're both on the hard tyres, it looks like. Russell and Stroll, I think that is. So it's calamity really for the entire Red Bull team, because Ricciardo's now lost 3 positions on track. I think eventually he'll overtake these guys, but you can see how difficult it is. You know, the Red Bull's got so much more pace than that Racing Point car, and yet he's finding it hard to overtake. And the same thing for Sainz. He's got past Lando Norris, fair play, but now he's stuck behind the AlphaTauri, the junior sister Red Bull team. So very frustrating times for both Red Bull cars, and it's just going to continue basically, because they have to get past those guys. They're racing for position. All those guys are on hards, and they're going to the end, so they're legit for position. You've even got a Williams car right up there as well, I think, of Nick de Vries, so doing a decent job. But that's the challenge they've set themselves basically by going to the two-stop for both of them. Meanwhile then, Leclerc is catching me. Verstappen is catching Leclerc as well, so I think by the end of this race, they both might be on me, you know, so this is going to be close. It's not a slam dunk race win here. Meanwhile, this is a few laps later, and the bad news continues for Red Bull and Sainz, because Sainz, we've missed it, but somehow he's been overtaken by both McLarens. So he's having an absolute calamity. The man who looks so good coming through in the championship standings, won 2 races in the last 5 episodes, is way down the order now in the last point-paying positions. It's been a woeful night for Sainz, and that's going to be good news for myself, Verstappen and Leclerc. You just saw their little clip of us on lap 27 at the start of it. Well, by the end of that lap, Leclerc now is well within 1 second. He's been gaining 1 second near enough a lap in this last stint. That's how quick the fresh mediums are versus the hards. And we go defensive now. We've got 4 laps to go in this Grand Prix, including the one we're on. And the fighting begins now. This is it. The pressure is on. Can we hold off this very quick Ferrari man for 4 laps? And maybe even my teammate might come into it, because he's set the fast lap of the Grand Prix so far, and he's only 2.7 seconds down the road as we go defensive again, under braking there, come back to the racing line. He's unable to get enough straight line speed that time round, but lap 29, he's under half a second there. Verstappen now 1.2, and let's see the exit we get this time. Going to a rich mix, I'm kind of tactically saving fuel in sector 2 and then using it all on these straights, but we go a little bit wide there. There was some understeer kicking in on the exit of that right-hander, so we're a little bit slower than we were last time. Leclerc with DRS is going to go for the move. We go defensive, and it's so fine, but fair enough of us squeezing him out. That's what we got to do. We got to keep it nice and fair, but do the absolute maximum we're allowed to do of pushing him out wide and just keeping our car placed in the right place on circuit, you know, at the apex or wide a little bit on purpose to push him out, and that's how we're going to win this Grand Prix today. And here we are now on the last lap of the Grand Prix, taking back to the racing line and doing all I can, but Verstappen is also there. The top 3 in this race are covered by pretty much just a second or so, and it comes down to this on the last lap. Can we keep it ahead of Leclerc and Ferrari? Can we keep it ahead of our teammate even? The tyre wear difference is massive now compared to hard, and Leclerc's got a good run with DRS. We go to the inside to go defensive, but he's going to make a massive lunge on the outside. He's actually fully alongside us. We get a bit of oversteer that was on the exit, so that puts us off, and we're literally neck and neck. He nearly puts me into the wall. We keep it clean under those trees. Who's going to come out top? We will, just about. But Leclerc is right on us. Verstappen just has to watch with a bucket of popcorn there. But Leclerc got so close to overtaking us. Yellow flags, and Alfa Romeo is stricken, so he can't overtake us in this section. So I used that to save a bit of fuel, just a little bit with lean mixture and standard. Put it back up into rich on this last stretch and stint. But my, oh my, that was so close. The way the rear end stepped out for me on that left-hander after the back straight, that's what did it for me. Allowed Leclerc to pull fully alongside us through that right-hander, but thankfully it was under those trees, able to maintain at that first place on the inside line, and we're just gonna come through nice and easy. At this point, my tyres are very second-hand, so I'm limping through these corners, but it's too late now, potentially. On the last sector, through the last few corners, we come through to the last bend on lap 31, and the fireworks will go off because we are going to win the Singapore Grand Prix, our 3rd win of this season, and our first win in a long while. Being on the top step after so long feels that much sweeter. We've done the job. We've held off the pressure from a very fast Charles Leclerc.
They've endured the harsh conditions here in Singapore to pull off a spectacular victory. And talk to me, what do you think it was that sealed the win for them?
I feel like consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
Well, I'm thoroughly exhausted after the excitement of that race, but I'm sure it's nothing compared to our drivers here. They've worked hard to make it up there, and it's great to see them make their way out onto the podium.
Well, there we have it. Awesome scenes to see. Of course, we've seen our livery overalls be on the top step before, with Verstappen winning a few races in the middle of the season, but it's been really quite too long since we won our last race, all the way at the Dutch Grand Prix in Zandvoort, and that's awesome. To win it at Singapore, such a tough Grand Prix, the longest one on the calendar, of course, and to do it in that kind of way by literally just soaking up the pressure. And you guys know, for one, with your own eyes, how quick Leclerc has been, not only this season, but especially last season as well, how quickly his AI can be and how aggressive and attacking his AI can be. And the fact that we held it through, especially on that last lap where literally for a few seconds we were in second place by a whisker, we've soaked it all up, and we are now in first place in the championship with a decent cushion now. No longer is it 1 point. We've got 10 points to Verstappen, 17 to Leclerc, Sainz down to P4. He had a dismal race down in, I think it was P8 there, so him and Red Bull need a mega few races now to bring that back up. Like, because either they're going to have to win a race whilst all of us flounder, which isn't going to happen. So he's going to need some consistent races now in the last third of this season to pull back that calamity of a Singapore Grand Prix. I don't know why they pit onto the soft tyres. Obviously, Verstappen did the same, but because he was able to get out ahead of that traffic somehow, you know, he pulled it off, and actually at the end of it was pretty good, you know, in third place. He only lost one position, like I said, and technically not even that, because he was actually in third behind Sainz before all of this, so Verstappen didn't actually lose out doing that two-stop, so funny enough. But yeah, for us, mega race. Lovely always to return to the top step. If you guys enjoyed that episode, then be sure to hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you are new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. And like I mentioned at the very start of the video, if you guys want to be entered into a giveaway to win an absolutely biblical gaming PC, one that's better than mine, then obviously if you did see the codes at some point in that video, then enter that code, enter the giveaway, and you could win a banging PC. But till the next one, guys, hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. I've been aarava. Goodbye.